Yay! Welcome to BASES Project final Q&A of the speakers that we've had here today. Some amazing speakers, and they're all open to answering questions ad hoc, which is pretty brave of everyone. So welcome. Right. Have we got any questions? Please say yes. Please raise a hand. Oh, yes. Would you like to?
Everybody, if you want a question, go and talk.
Yeah, come and line up, because I know you're all keen. Q. Come over here. Welcome. Hello. I'll hold the mic for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. It was absolutely brilliant. So glad I came. And it's just a general question, really. Do you, from your perspective, see people actually waking up a bit more? Because I'm still a bit down in the dumps about it all, especially with families not really coming round. So do you actually see that, it seems as though more people are aware? Because I think it's going to take numbers to actually have anything of a movement on our side. Don't seem to be enough at the moment. So that's that, really.
Thank you. Anyone want to volunteer on that question? Yes? Do you want to share?
Yes. I'd say it's not happening as quickly as I would like it to happen, but I hear a lot of people saying, I'm not having any more jabs. And I think people know that things are amiss. And as RFK Jr. did say once, I was lucky enough to be in a Zoom with him. He said, notice all of the movement is from their side to ours. Nobody, once they've opened their eyes, goes back. So we're only growing. So I would say there's a lot of hope for the future. And besides, it's got to get a little bit rougher before more people actually go, do you know what? I'm not putting up with this. And look at the Blade Runners in London sewing down all the ULEZ cameras. Fantastic. And I think we're going to see that in more cities, and we're going to see more people standing up. And I think that we're going to give them a real fight for the money, because I think that we can win. Yay. We can.
Well-deserved round of applause. We have some additions to that.
Yes, I'd like to add to that there isn't a uniform reaction around the world. The world is behaving very differently in different places. That, in fact, the worst of what is happening to the West, the Western Hemisphere. It's not, if you follow what's happening with BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they're not going along with these agendas. They really are not. They're not stopping fossil fuels. There's plenty of... in fact, there was an excess of grain in the world this year because Russia had bumper harvests. So the fact that Ukraine was knocked out didn't actually make a difference. And what's going on is a fight for the soul of the global South. That's where the West, the doom cult, is trying to hang on to the global South and make them still believe in all of this, including electrifying their grids in Africa, the same thing that you were talking about. But BRICS are trying to rescue the global South. They're telling them to stand up for themselves. So I see the big battle actually happening in America. And I think the election is properly bringing all sorts of issues to light. ESGs are no longer as popular as they were. Even Larry Fink of BlackRock is backing down from ESGs. There's various states in America that are not going along with geoengineering. All sorts of backlashes are happening in America. We're not seeing that in England. We are in the belly of the beast, which is why we are more depressed and more worried. But I think if we look outside Britain and beyond, then we can see a lot of signs of hope.
I totally agree with Lucy. To be honest, when you're in it, you can't see outside of it, and that's, I think, what Lucy was saying. Because we in the West have been hit so hard with everything. I mean, bearing in mind we are not the biggest polluters. We are being hit with all the sanctions, everything. We were hit really badly with the vaccination rollout, as the whole world was. But what's happened really is that there are things happening within the whole corporate world, where some of the banks. I was speaking to Lucy earlier. I mean, the whole thing about Larry Fink and the whole BlackRock thing is that people are beginning to see through the lies, because all they're trying to do is replace one economic system for another, and it's still fiat. And the New York Stock Exchange produced this biodiversity net gain financial instrument, which is how they will try and gain power over all our land, particularly farmland, by sanctioning farmers and making them adhere to biodiversity net gain quotas. And all of that is breaking down. The New York Stock Exchange has now decided to disengage from that. So I can see we've got big things happening where corporations are probably thinking, well, hang on, this is all a big fairy tale. This whole carbon credit thing, it doesn't work, it never would, and it never will. So we really are beginning to come out of all that, but it will take a bit of time, and we need to look at being a bit more positive about it, because we're in it, we can't see it. Thank you.
Thank you. It does seem that some people who are mentally attached to the agendas and things, that they need a personal shock to happen to them with someone they know or themselves in order to make that change. And we are seeing that. There was just the other week an electric vehicle that exploded just down the road in Devizes and shut the roads down, so that many people would have seen that. So we're just sort of in this process of not forcing, but allowing people in their time to see. Bob, have you got something?
Is that working?
Yes.
Just want to add my perspective. I think we saw during the fake pandemic that it was the Five Eyes countries that were hit the hardest. That's UK, USA, Australia, New Zealand.
Mic up a bit.
And that's because that's where the Fabian agenda was rolled out. And when you got resistance from some of the African countries, including those brave presidents who were assassinated for not injecting their people, I think you're starting to see the rise of what would be the third world, which is now the global south, not go along with these agendas. But my concern is that the Five Eyes are USA, which I come from a cult perspective, occult and espionage, so that's effectively Babylon, which is destined to fail. So it's built into the occult agenda that the West will fall. Now, I suspect that a lot of these people in the West are now going to backtrack, but they've already moved their money over to the BRICS, which is an alternative financial system. The petrodollar is going to crash. And what are you saying? Oh. So I suspect that that's all built in. So we're going to get the bank run-ins, we're going to get the stock market crash, and the smart money, or the real money, has already moved over to the new currency, which could become the new world order global currency. So it could be one of those Hegelian dialectics where we get completely conned about that. I hope not, because you want to hope that 2/3 of the world are going to move in the right direction. But I think the problem is that the UK, I suspect, because it's so under the control of the British brainwashing company, is the most brainwashed people on earth, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have actually seen, even locally, I'm always talking to people, and I've seen an awful lot of people starting to wake up. My brother, who works in America, he's woken up. He's had 3 jabs and he's woken up now. My daughter, but not just them. I just talked to a lot of people around, and they're really starting to wake up, and they're a bit more open to talking to them now, and they weren't before. So this is just a local observation.
And maybe that was part of the whole process, because they were so closed and so controlled. When they've actually realized something is different, and then they start to open up, you're moving into higher vibrational living, and therefore you're able to help yourself and other people. Anything anything to add to that? Yeah?
One quick comment was we are now starting to see quite a massive backlash against what happened during the pandemic. I mean, particularly in America, and particularly people who've been vaccine damaged. So people are, I think 2020 really did open up a lot of eyes. It's taken people a while, but now people are realising that the safe and effective was hardly safe or effective, and that people have really suffered. And so I think that may have been something that the dark do's tried to speed up, but I think it's had a counteractive effect of actually pushing more people to realise there's more going on. And so there's massive backlashes going on, and Fauci's still being hauled over the coals in America. That's not going away. So I do think that it is having the effect of making people realise something really bad happened. And the global south and the other parts of the world, they don't appreciate having had their economies crashed, that they're having their economies closed down. So they're thinking this strategy for dealing with a global virus didn't actually work. So why would we go along with anything that they say again? So I think that we're going to see a lot of pushback in different ways, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Just to add that the people that are behind this agenda are so cunning and sly, and they always have been, that this is all built into that. So they're actually promoting the collapse of society. They want people to not trust their governments. They want people to not trust the judiciary. So you can see all these things as part of the agenda. And it's almost like they want this to happen, because then the urge to bring in the New World Order, which is not a new thing, by the way. It hasn't suddenly happened with Klaus Schwab, and it's been going on since H.G. Wells actually wrote the New World Order in 1940. And it goes back to Thomas Malthus, back to, as Lucy said, back to Venice, and prior to that in, other feudal societies where really we are being turned into cattle, and worse than that, we're now being turned into data. So the whole lack of trust, what they don't like is tribal instinct. So they don't like people forming tribes, so they try to divide the tribe. So, by various nefarious methods. And of course, one of their big problems was the tribal power of the working class, which is why they made all the working class middle class, and now they're saddled with their mortgages. And similarly in America, there's 100 million people with guns who know how to use them, and this is another big problem they've got, which is why they do all these fake shootings by the CIA and the Maoists. So they're trying to bring down the collapse. So one way of doing that is for people to totally lose confidence in all the structures of government, so that they can impose a new one, which is Luciferic.
The old order out of chaos.
Yes. Thomas, do you think there's anything that's going on in Mars at the moment that is affecting us on the Earth here?
I think there is a lot going on Mars and in Mars that is affecting. The original question the lady asked was if it would change people's mind, if they would be more open-minded and believe. And what I experience is when I'm showing my images to people, they are saying, wow, this is interesting, can you show me more? So for me, I can talk about COVID, I can talk about pandemic, I can talk a lot about Mars, which I do. So for me, the question is, yes, absolutely, they are opening up and they're interested in learning more, want to know more, want to see more. And another thing is that I've always asked others to do also is every time we deliver a picture on social media from Mars or the moon, we provide a link to the original source, so we can have all them trolls coming and saying it's fake and it's doctored, because they can see it on NASA's own page, and that's the same I do. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be credible with any of what I'm doing. So people are definitely opening up on the area in regards to Mars, and that I am very, very glad for and happy for. That means my work is done. Yeah. I've done it.
Yeah, I do feel that there is something going on in Mars, and it does have an effect of our current situation here. That like almost they're linked somehow, or they're reflective
There is a link, of course. There is, and it's an ancient link which Dolly also can talk way much more about than I can. Anunnaki history back in the days. There is a link, and we are going hand in hand. And Earth, Mars, and Moon have history together as a family, not just in the solar system, but as brothers and sisters. So yeah, we are all tangled together with a different planet in our solar system. It was outside, I don't know. I'm only looking into our own solar system so far. So yeah, absolute.
Well, our solar system is enough to handle for the moment, isn't it? Right. Have we got another question over here? Yes. Would you like to come forward, and then I'll get to you in a moment. Come in the light.
I'd just like to ask Teresa, with your knowledge, how inevitable is a CME to affect Earth? And if it does, you say catastrophic, how long will it take humanity to recover from that, such an impact? Because we're all digital now, and our satellites, it would literally wipe everything out.
Yeah, this is something that I've given a lot of thought to. Now, I like to look on the bright side. I think we could all do with a little less screen time. You know what I mean? And a lot of us, deep down inside, really yearn for the types of lives that our grandparents and our great-grandparents lived. And I, for one, would go back in a heartbeat. I don't know about maybe the 19th century, but I wouldn't mind going back to the 80s or even the 70s. They were cool. But yeah, as regards the possibility that this could happen, it's inevitable. These solar storms do happen. The difficulties we face at the moment is that as the Earth is orientated at the moment, we've picked all the low-hanging fruit. So it's no longer easy to get to the oil and the coal reserves and the gas. And we're now going more and more involved and complicated in how, like, we obtain oil, like, for example, the shale plays that they're using. So I think that would be a huge challenge. But the way I see it, a Carrington event, which I think it could be as much as 30-50% chance by the mid-2030s, the next solar maximum, and still a 10% chance in the next couple of years. The great thing that I like to think about is that when it happens, they lose control of us, which is why they are rushing, falling over themselves to try and set us up to fail and to imprison us and to take away the means to get our society and civilization back. Think about it. The satellites will fall out of the skies, the drones will fall out of the skies, the ULEZ cameras, all the surveillance will fail, their robots will fail, their internet will go down, their CBDC banking system will go down, and they will completely lose control. And I look forward to that in some ways.
Bring it on.
Could I?
Yes.
Teresa can probably confirm this or not. My understanding of the Carrington event type CME is it would only really affect the grids that are most exposed to the sun on that side of the planet. So it wouldn't necessarily, because the grids aren't all connected all around the world.
Right. Yeah, I could address that.
Okay. Well, and also I'm not seeing that Russia and other places are abandoning fossil fuels anytime soon. And much as I like the idea of working horses, I happen to have a horse that goes by the name of an Irish draft. How would you get the farrier out to do the feet?
Learn a new skill.
Well, okay, good points. First of all, you mentioned the sun-facing side during the Carrington event. Unfortunately, the Earth is enveloped in a magnetic field, and when you knock the sun-facing side of it, it reverberates around the entire planet. And in fact, in some ways, the knock-on effect at the back of the planet during the night can be just as bad. So we're all vulnerable to it, and the problem is if the grid goes down worldwide all at the same time, you wouldn't necessarily be able to come back from that. I think we'd have challenges. I mean, you can't milk 400 cows. You can't shear 600 sheep. So what we would have to do, and I think we should all be doing this, is form a relationship with your local food producers, your farmers, your horticulturalists. Form a relationship, go to those farm stores, go and visit your local farmer and ask what you can do to help. Because if this happens and you've got a farmer with 400, 600 cows, and they can't milk those cows because the electric milking parlour is down, they're going to need some help. And I think that we can do this. We can boost our farmers. We can give them the support that they need, and we can get together with them. Not communitarianism. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about saying, hey, this is what I can bring. What can I do to help you if this should happen? And what can I do to help you now? Because DEFRA, which was the first government organisation that had the common purpose nudging technique training, they turned DEFRA from being an annoyance that the farmers just used to tolerate to being merciless killing machines that will chase a pet alpaca around the field to slaughter it. You know, based on a faulty PCR TB test. So the farmers are going to need some support, they're going to need some help, and I think we should rally behind our farmers, because without farmers there's no food. Okay, so what was the question? There was about the would you have the repercussions on the other side of the earth, which I've covered. The farrier, yeah, things like that. Well, I used to ride a lovely horse who was unshod, and I have to say that a shod horse can actually be retrained back to being able to walk. If you think about the horse's hoof, it's almost like a second heart. It pumps, through the frog. It pumps blood through the horse's legs and keeps the circulation going. So I don't think
still needs trimming.
Yeah. Well,
so
I think
you still need someone who knows what they're doing.
We're going to have to. I've actually got 2 farriers in the family, so we're going to have to find out where the farriers are. Get people to breed horses, because I think we are going back to horses. And
the book to read is J.K. What's he called? Kunstler, The Long Emergency. That is a very good sort of thought form exercise as to he still writes J. Howard Kunstler, I can't remember his exact name. The Long Emergency. He goes through all of this, and I think what he discovers is the thing that we most miss are dentists.
I've had this conversation with a dentist friend actually, and she's teaching me a thing or two. And yeah, I'd say we're going to have some problems because we've lost those skills. But I suggest to everybody you stockpile heirloom and heritage seeds. If you eat meat, you start looking at having your own rabbits or chickens. Everybody should have some chooks running around for the eggs. And start stockpiling those books. Herbalism, survival, how the off-grid book, I can't remember what it's called, self-sufficiency book. Right. The guy who wrote that and his wife, she actually wrote more of it. They live locally to me. It's a very good book, and I recommend that everybody try and get a copy of it, because we could be plunged into darkness pretty quickly, and we need to have those skills, or at least learn them from books. Get away from the subscription model, guys. Stop buying Kindle. Your Kindle won't be there after the Carrington event.
Also, hedgerow books on, going into hedgerows and foraging there. That's really useful as well. It's amazing the amount of edible plants we do have in our hedgerows, and just to even sustain us for a while or whatever. So that's another aspect.
Well, all of that research will be much lighter vibrationally than some of the things that we're
exactly.
That's on TV and in the movies anyway. So it's time better spent, and we'll become happier for it and more sufficient for it.
A time for change anyway, definitely. Actually, on the planet.
Yeah.
Can I share a funny story?
Yeah.
A meme I saw on YouTube. You know how you sometimes get a person commenting on someone else's film, and this older woman, she was commenting on this younger person who was talking about how they only text and they use sat-nav and all the rest of it. And the older person was saying, look how quickly we can take back control. We can do longhand writing and we can read paper maps.
Yeah, I left my phone here last night.
I think
I'm still alive.
Us older ones, although we're older, we're going to have a key role for the youngsters, because they're going to be completely and utterly lost without their screen. So they're going to be like wandering fish, or just sort of totally lost. So yeah, so we'll have a key role in helping others, definitely.
They're going to find a whole new life. Yep.
Yep.
I would like to add also to that. In Denmark, they're now talking about all school classes need to learn how to grow food and produce food as a part of going to primary school. And I am thinking, why didn't they do that 30 or 50 years ago, but just now? So that's step one, learn to grow your own food and make it. I still need to learn how to make it. That's another story. But about the CME, when you go down to the computer store today and buy a spare part, a motherboard, it comes in a static bag, a little aluminum bag. You can get them called CME bags as well, which you use when you have things stored on storage, like mega storage. And it's a well-known fact also that the best protective element we have against any radiation at all, that's water. That's why we also use it for uranium and plutonium. So when you see some government or councils just suddenly make big lakes, think about it, there could be a storage facility down underneath it, because that would be the only place where you could go and get new chips for your Tesla or whatever. And all those are driving in Citroën 2CVs and Volkswagen Beetles will be the powerful people. They will be the one that get paid with food and drink and water to take people from A to B and connect the families. So all those that are driving old cars, they're going to be like important in the future. So
that's brilliant.
Get an old car, learn how to grow your food, and get a lot of CME bags and make a pond in your back of your yard.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, there was a question. Yes. Sorry. You went and sat down, so we were alone.
My question was covered by what the lady asked just a minute ago, but I've still got one thing that really I can't get my head around. Okay, I've looked at this for many years, and Madam Catastrophe here may have the answer. Okay, or lots of other people, lots of insights. This global agenda for one world government, to break us, to finish us. Okay, if we're going to get this, as I believe that, as you do, it's inevitable at some point this is going to happen. If the elite, or it's a horrible word, actually gain control of everything, what have they actually won? So is it really a death cult where they really want to annihilate all of life? So is it some god or something they believe, like Thanos, that believes that the universe has to be cleaned of all life and start again? So what is the point of them rushing to this if this event is going to happen? I know they're into bunkers, and perhaps other people have I've heard other people speak about secret space program and us having colonies here, there and everywhere else. Are we going to repopulate the earth from away, from underground? And even if they come underground and we're coming back to start at zero, how do they start? Because these people will be using all these technologies to actually implement their control. So how are they okay, they'll go back to swords and shields, I'm sure. But I'm just wondering, I've never been able to marry the two events. I believe that both events are happening. I just can't see the death cult that it is the end game. Is that what they really want? Do they really want the end of everything, or do they believe they can come back? I know we've got seed stores, I'm sure, in Scandinavia, isn't there, seed stores? And I'm sure they've got DNA stores for all the animals and the genetic codes to rebuild everything. But are they going to have enough infrastructure to build it back out again? Because obviously this has happened before on the planet, perhaps 4 or 5 times, from what I've read. I don't know. Obviously it wasn't there. But it's just has anybody got a view on that? Especially the people who've been following the bloodlines and this, the Saturn death cults and whatever else that have been around for a long time. Anyway, that I think is genuinely the question, and I'm completely and utterly bemused. So please try and enlighten me.
Thank you.
Shall I address that?
Go for it.
Okay. I've thought about this a lot, and I ask myself, why do they want to try and destroy our fertility, make us starve, destroy any chance we've got of getting our civilization back? And it's occurred to me that, yes, they've probably got bunkers. If you look at the Antarctic Treaty, that's very interesting, isn't it? To preserve the resources of Antarctica, which we understand are rich. I mean, there's huge coal seams there. To preserve Antarctica for future generations. Well, whose generations? If the pole flip occurs, which I believe there is reason to believe it will, Antarctica will be prime real estate near the equator. Who wouldn't want to be there? So it seems to me that they are preparing in Greenland and Antarctica. And remember, there was a movie from Hollywood called Greenland, and it was something about, I think it was impactors, meteors. And everybody was trying to get to Greenland because that was going to be safe. But I think they tell us. The seed bank up in the Arctic Circle is called Svalbard, and I think it's the biggest one in the world. But I think they are fully anticipating the pole shift and possibly the Jabanekov. I can't pronounce it. Somebody mispronounced it earlier, and Janibekov. They're expecting the Janibekov rotation probably to put these land masses, Antarctica and Greenland, on the equator. So I think if they're building bunkers, they will have bunkers there. There may be some other spots. I mean, people have talked about Hawaii. They're building bunkers there, and they're buying up New Zealand like it's going out of fashion. I think the one thing that scares them is having millions of survivors beating our way to their bunker doors because they didn't tell us and they set us up to fail. But also, I think they want to reboot the human race in their own image, genetically, with regards to their beliefs, their culture. They've decided that it's going to be humanity 2.0, and it's going to be them, not us. And by us, I think you can pretty much infer it's the Five Eyes countries and Europe.
Can I put another spin on that? I wouldn't call them a death cult. I call them a doom cult, because they don't really care whether you live or die. What they care about is how you think about things. So they want to frame your way of thinking so that you feel depressed, so that you feel disconnected. And once you're isolated and disconnected, then you're more easily preyed upon. This is a predatory kind of group of people who've been doing this for a long time. And so whether the world ends or doesn't end is not really relevant to them. The more doom and gloom they can spread, the more you feel that society's breaking down, the more you feel bad about everything. That's what they're actually trying to achieve, because they're after victims. They're wanting victims of all sorts of different kinds of victims. I'm not going to go into the detail because it's just gross. And this is why people in other parts of the world are waking up to what they're about, and they're not having it. And if you look at the El Salvadorian president, he said He said, we've stopped George Soros from coming. We don't want this kind of... He's arrested all the gangs. He's got 70,000 prisoners because he wants to stop to this kind of preying on people. And this is the kind of thing that is happening around the world. People are standing up to the doom cult. So it's not really about whether this will really happen or not happen. I mean, yes, you're right, of the Carrington event, that's true, but I still think it's going to be very patchy, and even farmers still need access to fossil fuels. You can't. How are they going to sharpen things? We don't have the scythes and the sickles to do the harvest. So how are you going to run your combine harvester without fossil fuels? These things are still needed. I mean, one interesting thing is about Mr. Diesel. If you look into Mr. Diesel, he was about creating fuel out of things that weren't actually hydrocarbons, and he met an untimely end, poor Mr. Diesel. But, I mean, there are other ways you can create fuels, it's true. And I think that's definitely something that needs to be explored. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it a death cult, I'd call it a doom cult. And think about what the other agenda is.
Yes?
Just briefly, I think you can call it a transhumanist cult because the end game for this is transhumanism. As well. And this is what the United Nations is all about. People mention those three witches, Alice Bailey, Blavatsky, and Annie Besant. I've done a lot of digging into their lives, and trust me, they're very dark. It all links into Crowley's Thelemic religion, which has become the religion of the 20th century. So, as far as they're concerned, when we were talking about Isaac Newton, Bertrand Russell, they both wrote books called Principia Mathematica, and what that does is it separates humanity from the divine. So the whole philosophy behind the last 300 years is about making that breakup, and once man's separated from the divine, they can destroy nature. So I don't think there's any going back from this, and they also are confident that their consciousness can be downloaded into the cloud. So you get these reptiles like Yuval Harari and other people who really, I'm not going to say what I want to do to him, but these people are in power now, and they need to be removed from power.
Whether you choose to resonate with what I'm going to say or not is entirely up to you, no pressure. But I had a vision where a tesseract was created over the earth and lit up about 2 years ago in order to draw away the lowest vibrational beings. So as far as I'm concerned, and I saw them actually move off, as far as I'm concerned, they were the lowest bosses as such. So the hierarchy upside down as such. So then after that we were left with bosses without bosses. So I was always aware that there was going to be a little bit of chaos because there's no responding to a boss anymore. So that was my take. Julie?
Well, what I've observed is an anti-life agenda because, like you were saying, transhumanism. I mean, it's like we've seen even in Sherwood Forest, like the veterinization of our ancient woodlands, ripping limbs off. Well, any horticulturalist knows that can introduce really bad diseases. And we see this across the board. They say, it's for the environment or it's for animal welfare. And it's completely opposite when you see what they're doing. They're culling animals for no reason, or fake PCR tests for animals, and they're culling millions of animals. So it's anti-life completely, and the GMO and extra messing with plants as well, mixing plants and animals, you name it, all to try and take over Mother Nature. So it's completely anti-life is the way I've seen it. But this is it. It may be we have a Carrington event and we have to go through that. I don't know, but there's a lot of kickback now. So I'm hoping, things increase and we can help turn things around.
Well, birth requires labour. And on that, I would like to thank you very much. An absolutely wonderful panel of questions, amazing talks today. Some people had their first talk today, couldn't tell who it was, and I'm not going to say anything, but absolutely amazing. Every bit of information shared today is fantastic, and the whole vibe has been very amazing. all the people in here have met other people, have some amazing talks, discussions. I thank every single person here. Those of you are still maybe in the pub, I'm not sure, hello. And those of you at home on the live stream and everything, thank you and for coming. And Miles, Matt, everybody here has done an amazing job, and we've pulled this together and we're done, and I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.